Hi, hello everybody. I'm Justin. This is Koopa. Welcome to Koopa's Corner. Today we're going to talk about the build to WrestleMania 41. WrestleMania 41 is a week away. Later this week, I'll have my regular PLE preview and predictions video. We'll talk about each match, a little bit about the stories that they told, make our predictions for who's going to win, and maybe some of the implications that's going to happen afterwards because of that. But we'll get to that. Right now, I want to focus on just kind of the build in general, not necessarily break down each story, but I just want to talk about the build. There have been a lot of good moments in this build to WrestleMania 41. But all in all, it has felt rather lackluster. Now, that being said, it's not going to stop me from watching. I'm going to be watching both nights. I'm sure you are too. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You're probably very excited for it. It's WrestleMania. And therein lies the problem. The WWE is hot right now, right? It's very popular. And it's breaking all sorts of records, attendance records, box office records. It's drawing in more money than it's ever done before. It's selling merchandise. It's got huge, TV deals coming in, and cities are, bidding this huge amount of money to get events there. And they know we're going to tune in and we're going to watch, regardless. And I think because they know that, they really didn't deliver as big as they could have for this WrestleMania. Now, again, WrestleMania has yet to happen. It's probably going to be a pretty good event, going to be a lot of fun. The performers will show up and show out. I'm not worried about whether or not it's going to be good, right? But this build, we're talking specifically about the build. It hasn't delivered. These matches aren't as big as they should be or could be, and they had some pretty obvious ones right there on the table that they left. It's felt like they've had a lot of multi-person matches just to include people on the card. They don't want people to be left off. And yeah, this doesn't feel really like anything else since the Triple H era has begun. Right? This feels like the type of things we would have gotten maybe 5 years ago. And so I want to break down some of these thoughts for you guys, the good and the bad, as we talk about this build, all in all. So let's start with the big one, right? John Cena's big heel turn. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Right? We're not going to, again, get into the predictions yet, but could this build have been better? That's what we're going to ask. At the end of Elimination Chamber in my post-show breakdown here, I questioned John Cena's heel turn. I questioned whether it's something that we want or if it's something that we wanted years ago and now it's too little too late. And I seemed to be alone in that sentiment, right? The heel turn largely went over pretty well. I made a video talking about how I was wrong. And I acknowledge that it was this huge moment. And I think it was a much bigger moment than I originally gave it credit for. That being said, where has The Rock been in all of this? Right? John Cena turned heel on The Rock's orders. He sold his soul to The Rock. And since then, he's come out and he's broken up with us. And he's blamed us. But he hasn't really given an explanation. And The Rock hasn't been around. This hasn't turned into a big faction. The Rock and Cena and, maybe someone else. This big Mount Rushmore heel faction. Like, this could have been absolutely revolutionary. This could have rivaled the Bloodline. This could have rivaled the NWO. This could have rivaled G-Generation X. But The Rock has been very absent. He hasn't been around, and Cena's explanation hasn't been that thorough. We don't really understand his motives, and we're only a week away. And so while it's been fun and it's been exciting and it's been really entertaining to watch John Cena play a character so different from what he traditionally has played, I can't help but wonder if it could have been done better, if it could have been executed better. While it's good on paper, it's the execution I'm questioning here. And I think a lot of that has to do with The Rock's absence. I also can't help but wonder if it would have made more sense for Cody to have accepted the offer and sold his soul to The Rock and been the heel, right? And then John Cena been the good guy. And then we would have still gotten this feud along with another big match down the road, maybe SummerSlam, maybe Survivor Series, maybe next year's WrestleMania, of Cody versus The Rock. Cody, he sells his soul, and he is oppressed by The Rock. He's forced to do things he's not entirely comfortable with by The Rock. He's forced to do all these things on The Rock's orders until he finally snaps and fights back. And we could have had an extra feud because of it down the road. So there are some questions with that one, in my opinion, right? It's been fun, but has it been as good as it could have been, right? Another one that has kind of had me scratching my head, the women's triple threat match. There was no really reason to go in this direction, right? You just wanted to get 3 of your big women in a match together. And that's okay, I understand that, right? And for the most part, I've just gone with it. If it's not the match I would have booked, that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad match. And I'm excited for it. But from a storytelling perspective, I think they've really missed one key element, right? This whole story started off when Rhea attacked Liv, causing her to win the match against Io Sky via disqualification and to qualify for the Elimination Chamber. Io missed out because of that disqualification, so Rhea offered her a rematch, a title match. Not a rematch, but a title match to make up for it, right? Hey, I cost you, you can't qualify for the Chamber, I'm just going to give you a title match. Bianca Belair then wins the Chamber. Whether or not she should be involved in this match or she should be involved in the Naomi Jade Cargo match, that's another topic for another day. Right, Bianca Belair wins, for better or for worse. And she's at ringside when Io finally gets her championship match. And she lays her hands on Rhea. And the referee does not call for a disqualification. When in WWE history does the ref just allow outside interference? That is, the title match only happened in the first place because Rhea had caused a disqualification. So in this story itself, they've acknowledged that that is a rule in the WWE universe. Right? Well, Bianca lays her hands on Rhea. Rhea ends up losing the title. And the story progresses from there. But I think that was a big misstep, not factoring that in. Because you still could have gotten to the triple threat match if Io had lost via disqualification. If Io had demanded another rematch, Rhea gave me a rematch after costing me. You're not going to let me in your title match after costing me, Bianca? Oh, you're not. Clearly, you're not half the woman that Rhea is. There was story to be told there. You could have gotten the same result without ignoring one of your big rules. And I saw a lot of pushback when Rhea signed her name to the contract, right? It was supposed to be Bianca versus Io before it was announced as a triple threat match. And Rhea comes out, she takes the contract, she signs her name to the contract. And I saw a lot of pushback there about Rhea Ripley, being in the wrong. And, that's not the first time they've used that in WWE. Obviously, they had a new contract to come out the next week. They acknowledged that that was not a legitimate contract signing. That Rhea can't just put her name on it and get in the match, right? But for the way that a lot of the fan base kind of pushed back, I mean, it got fairly extreme. I even saw people, saying it was racist. I saw people saying that, Rhea was using her white privilege. And, like, I thought that was pretty extreme, right? They're just sort of turning her into the heel in this situation, giving her some of her edge back. And I don't think it really had anything to do with that. I also think that these people completely ignored the fact that Bianca cost Rhea the title in the first place. Because had there been a disqualification, Rhea would have retained. It would have been Bianca versus Rhea, not Bianca versus Io. And so just that one huge oversight has cascaded sort of into a lot of different topics, a lot of different conversations. And I think that that's a fault to this build. That being said, I really like Rhea Ripley getting some of her edge back, right? I definitely think she's still a huge, huge star. She's still one of the top stars in the WWE, but, she was a little bit bigger a year or two ago when she was coming out of the Judgment Day, right? Right up until about Liv Morgan took the title and Dom turned on her, right up until about that point. And part of her, I think, losing a little bit of that momentum was maybe that the Liv storyline was overplayed. They spent a little too much time together, right? And that's definitely a possibility. I think another big aspect in this story that's been hitting really well is Io demanding to be seen as an equal. Io demanding to be respected. I really like her role in this story. I think they've told that really well. So I think that's been really interesting. A couple of other points where I start to question the build to this is kind of related to this. It's the Jade versus Naomi storyline. We haven't gotten a lot of explanation from Naomi. She just kind of was like, I did it for you, Bianca. And then the rest of the altercations have been physical. We have not gotten much more in the way of promo. And this is sort of Jade's first big one-on-one match. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more narrative weaved into this. And I understand she's out for revenge. But we still don't fully understand Naomi's motive in this in the first place, right? That was largely left underdeveloped. I think there's been some big faults with the Royal Rumble winners, right? The Royal Rumble and WrestleMania were very far apart this year. WrestleMania is a few weeks later than usual because tourism in Las Vegas tends to be slower on a holiday, Easter Sunday, than it would be a couple of weeks earlier at the start of April when WrestleMania usually takes place. So part of that bid to get WrestleMania into Vegas and all that money that Vegas spent on that was that it would be a couple of weeks later than usual on Easter weekend, which is that's a whole nother topic of whether or not that's right in the first place. But that's the way it is. And that specific point of interest has stretched the distance between the Rumble and WrestleMania. And so you had a shocking Royal Rumble win in Jey Uso. You had a pretty boring Royal Rumble win in Charlotte Flair. Not that either of those are right or wrong. That's a whole nother topic as well. Like, there are so many ways to go here to question things. But that gap then, how do you keep these stories relevant? How do you keep these stories hot? And I feel like both of those stories really floundered in the beginning. And it really took them a while to try and find their footing. And it almost feels like too little too late before they really started to ramp up. And I don't think either of those matches are being considered as, the most anticipated of the weekend. I think both of them fall short of that. And, neither of them are going to be in the main event. WWE's already announced the main events, right? Saturday, it's going to be Punk versus Rollins versus Roman. Sunday, it's going to be Cody versus Cena. Neither of the Royal Rumble winners are in there. And that should say a lot. I think that AJ Styles versus Logan Paul has been done really well. I think that one's going to be a lot of fun. Priest versus McIntyre, right? Both superstars feel like they should be doing something bigger and better. This one kind of came about last minute, so with the time that they've had, they've made it work. But it just feels like neither of them are much of a priority. Same thing with the women's tag match. I don't feel like the superstars there were really treated as a priority. Liv Morgan was Superstar of the Year in 2024. I've said it on the channel before, I'll say it again. I mean, she was the star in the WWE in 2024, and now she's dropped into tag duty. Not only that, but her opponent is the Women's Intercontinental Champion, Lyra Valkyria, who's teaming with Bayley. We're not getting a Women's Intercontinental Championship match. We're not getting a Women's United States Championship match. And this is the first WrestleMania that both of those championships exist for. And it feels like if they want us to take them seriously, they should be featured a bit more. And instead, your champion is not even defending her championship. She's just being relegated to tag duty. So there's a kind of a problem with that build for me. It just feels like an afterthought. And that's it. It just feels like an afterthought. I'm not even saying you can't make it work with those 4 competitors, but you need more focus and more attention, and they're just not getting it. The New Day and the War Raiders is another sort of late development, but I think the New Day story has been a lot of fun. Coming off of Big E's expulsion from the group, I feel like there was a lot of heat and a lot of momentum behind the New Day, and they just took a little while to start capitalizing on it. They just didn't follow that up in a meaningful way fast enough. Now that we're getting to WrestleMania, if they win the tag titles, this could be the start of something great for the New Day. So that's, still kind of up in the air with that one. That could be fine. That could be not so fine. That one's going to more depend on how it goes from WrestleMania. Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. Not the biggest match on the card, but it's been a lot of fun. I think this build for this match has been absolutely fine. Perfectly happy with it. They're telling an interesting story. They're doing it in a lighthearted way. It's been a fun build for that match, right? LA Knight and Jacob Fatu for the U.S. title. It's been kind of a mid build. It's not bad. It's not good. It's not bad though. It's a match that's happening, right? I don't know. What do you guys think they could have done better for this build? Because it feels like this story, it's just a match that sort of is happening. It doesn't feel like there's much storyline there. And then there's the triple threat, Roman versus Seth versus Punk. And whether or not this is the match you wanted to see, whether this or not this is the match I wanted to see, that's all beside the point. This is the match that we're getting. And I think, given that fact, this might be the match they've done the best job at telling the stories. They've found a way to make all 3 competitors sort of important to the story, and that's difficult to do. It's difficult to build a triple threat feud, right, and make all 3 competitors feel as equally important, and this kind of it does. They've sort of nailed it with this one. And that's pretty much the WrestleMania card, guys. But again, the build, the stories, what do you think? Has it been lackluster to you? I feel like there have been a few hits, but there have also been a few misses, and there's probably been a few more misses than there have been hits. Will any of this matter in a week during WrestleMania? Probably not. It's going to be a fun event. I'm going to be watching regardless of the build. I'm sure you are too. But I just, now that we're a week away, I wanted to talk about it a little bit. I wanted to give those builds a chance to tell as much story as they could. And we still have a Raw and a SmackDown to go between now and then. But I just wanted to give them a chance to tell the majority of their stories before we talked about this, because I came out of the Royal Rumble sort of scratching my head at Jey Uso's win. And this whole time, these past couple of months, I've just been sitting here going, I guess. I don't know. I don't think a lot of it's really worked that well. Those are my thoughts. Those are my opinions. Let me know in the comments what yours are. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. Later this week, we'll have our actual predictions for WrestleMania. And we'll see you in the next one.